let's go ahead with our SAS Studio in order to see that what are the background it happens when we submit our program. What are the steps are taken care behind the curtains so that to understand how the entire SAS compiler is processing any piece of code what we are writing in terms of programming wise. So the very first step, let's write about class 6. The very first thing I would like to tell you that what is SAS dataset first. As I explained you earlier this topic that usually SAS dataset in a real time you can assume it as a table like we create in our Microsoft Excel which contains rows and columns like that. Similarly, let's write a quick definition about what is SAS data step. What is SAS dataset? So it is a table created in SAS which created from data lines or cards in one's code. In the process for this, we do data extraction, or in other words, we call it as a data manipulation. The result of data extraction oblique manipulation from it is also a result of data extraction or manipulation from either database or any external raw file like that. So what does it mean? This is a definition of a SAS dataset. It states that it's a table which is created in a SAS, which is created in a SAS from in SAS from data lines or cards statement in one's code. As it's clear that okay, with the data line and the card statement you create the SAS dataset. It is also a result of the data extraction or manipulation from either database or any external file. This topic we have already covered that. This topic we have covered before that with the raw data, if we read from the external file also, by that also data sets getting created. Is this clear? The basic definition? Okay. Now, in the SAS data set creation, usually there are two steps we are following. Okay, one is like SAS data step, one is the proc step. Okay, proc step we'll see it further. Right now, today's focus on how this data step processing is happening. So let's write another. What is SAS data step? What is data step means precisely? A programming step used in SAS to perform data manipulation activities, and as a result creates a SAS data set. Now what does it mean? Its data step is nothing but it's a programming step what we are writing, which we are using in SAS to perform the data manipulation. Now what do you mean by data manipulation? Before also we just wrote in line number 5, data extraction or manipulation means we are getting some sort of data and we are applying some logic over it, we are programming something, and we try to change the data and present the data, or we are trying to suppose filter out the data. Suppose I got a lot of data which contains all the information from the both the genders, male and female, but I'm more interested towards the male gender, how a male patients have reacted for so and so scenarios. So I'm trying to filter out my data only for precise gender. This is called like I'm changing the data, manipulating the data as per my requirement of the or the scenario based, and I'm applying the logic or programming over that. Such things are called data manipulation. Was just an example. There are many ways we can change the data that we're going to learn further as per the logics we have to apply over it. So this is clear, like to perform the data manipulation activity, as a result it creates a data set for you. Now these are the basic definitions, like what is all the data step and the data this is. Now let's focus on more in depth about the topic, like what this data step processing, as I said earlier, how in the backend side the entire process is happening. And a very much important question will arise for your interviews from this topic, that what is called PDV, how the entire process happens, what are the automatic variables like underscore n underscore and underscore error underscore, which we're going to cover in the today's class. These are very much important theoretical aspects for an interview purpose precisely. Now let's write the topic. It's like SAS goes through two phases when processing a data step. Okay, there are two main phases what is happening. First we'll go to the theory part, and then I'll show you in practical how this entire theory is applicable when we write a simple piece of code, and we'll see in the log that how the things are happening. First let's go to the theoretical aspects. So majorly SAS goes with the two phases while processing a data step. Okay, the very first is the compilation phase. Spelling is wrong. Compilation phase. Second is execution phase. Okay, now what does these two means? I'll give you first theoretical aspect. See, compilation phase and what is execution phase. Whenever we are writing any program and we are running our program, okay, the very first step any program what we write, okay, usually this is a common practice is followed across any programming language, not only for the SAS. Okay, compilation and execution are very you can say common terms used in the programming computer programming language across the industry. Now compilation phase is like something, first thing what you will see, you have written the program, you have run it. Now compiler, SAS compiler will comment, first things first is to check that whether you have done any syntax error or not. Syntax error means, did you missed out any semicolon, did you forget to write any keyword called run, data, input, like that. These keyword data lines cards which are very much important to understand this as that what does this mean, the entire program is what action is required. So these syntax are very much important, which is the very first step seen by the SAS during the compilation phase. Once your compilation is completed, means you don't have a kind of error and something, then during the compilation phase there are three important things which get created by the compiler. Now what are those? First thing is, it's called input buffer. Second thing is called pdv, program data vector. Third is called descriptor portion. We'll go in detail with the theory, I'll write it out about these. Okay, so these things are majorly happening in compilation phase. Now what happen in execution phase? Once your compilation is completed, means your program is correct syntax wise, these three things are getting created: input buffer, pdv, and your descriptor portion. Then it goes to execution phase. Now execution phase, what happens? Now it will start reading out one by one the raw data which you have provided, line by line it will read out, and it will write in your SAS dataset via input buffer and pdv. So via these two it goes to your SAS dataset finally. That's how the entire process happens in the backend, though it is like we just run it and we get the results, but how is the backend happening, this is what is about. Now let's go in detail one by one. So compilation phase. Okay. Now what comes under compilation phase? SAS does two things under this phase. First thing, let's just write A and B to make it simple. First thing is it checks the code for syntax error. The very first thing which I already told. What is second thing SAS will do? It creates the input buffer, pdv. Let's write in a capital so that it's you will understand better. Input buffer pdv, and you can write here program data vector. Okay, and what is the last? And descriptor portion, of the SAS of the dataset or SAS datasets if no syntax error is found. If no syntax error is found. Yeah, let's give a space. Is this clear so far? We'll go in detail, but is this clear so far what I just explained? Okay, now we'll go in detail as well. I'll show you one by one how data is getting captured in this, because that entire process is very much important. I'll go in detail. Let's write it out also so that you can refer these theories also. in future. In the execution phase now, what happens? SAS does the following. Now let's focus on this because this is much needed. Now, how in execution phase it happens? The very first step, okay, it reads the first line of data. What is the first line of your raw data which you have given, suppose by data lines or the card statement? The very first line it will read into the input buffer. First raw data is going to input buffer, the very first step. Now what is the second? The input buffer have a input pointer. Okay, what is input pointer? Simply you can understand that pointer is like a cursor what you have right now on my screen. So I can move the cursor from here to here. So pointer is also like a cursor. It points a particular location or a particular number area, and then it moves subsequently further. One by one, it'll keep on moving, and when the data will end, pointer will stop. Then pointer will come back again at the starting and will start reading the second line, third line, so on, one by one, it will keep on reading. So it's like a moving cursor, okay, from one to another, and further it will move. So the input buffer have a input pointer which reads the data, into the PDV. Means input pointer, which is a part of input buffer, it will reads the data one by one and it will pass on to PDV. Okay, into the PDV it reads the data. Now which will read, okay. Now what is the second? The PDV. What does PDV do? PDV writes the first observation. First observation means first data, first line of it, okay, onto the data set. PDV simply going to write your final data set. So one is like your raw data, source data, then it go to input buffer, PDV, and your final output data set. Fourth, PDV writes after that, okay. Then the PDV empties the variables created by input statement. I said not a buffer this time. So input statement means in the raw in the when we are writing the data in input statement, we write the variable names. If you remember the data step, we write the what are the variable names it contains your data set. So the PDV empties the variable created by your input statement and reset the auto automatically, just remove automatic variables. What are the automatic variables? Underscore n underscore and underscore error underscore. It will reset these variables. Means usually underscore n or underscore error, what it is, underscore n underscore means it will point out that which particular row, or you can say if you have seen the data when we ran the data lines or a basic data step, there was a row getting created called observation number. I always told you to suppress or to eliminate those observation number using some no OBBS option under the print, proc print. So that observation number is nothing but the row number. That is what underscore n underscore points. It contains the row number precisely. And what is error underscore error? Underscore error underscore variable is nothing but it will show you with a value of 1 only if your particular row having an error. By the time if there is no error in your entire program, this will remain as 0. Is that clear? Can anyone just confirm me? Okay, okay, fine then. Yeah, you guys can keep me on mute. Yeah, I'll just keep on going on. Just ping, just say if you have any doubt in between. Just unmute yourself and say. So, what does the final step? The SAS repeats the process. So, this is I have explained you how it happens in the backend in a theoretical manner. We'll go in a diagramming wise just after this. For the second line of data and continues until all of the observations are written to the data set. That's it. So last line says that SAS will continue this process until your all the observations are sent to your written to your SAS data set. That was a overview about the theoretical aspect, how it happens. Now we'll go one by one with some definition as well, how it is. Uh, let me show, let me write a small piece of code first to show you how this in the log it's it's happening. Okay, just for your knowledge, and then we'll go in detail again theoretical side. Let's write a piece of code, a sample data. Let's suppose I'm writing, okay, I need to close the data. No, no, let me remove all this for a while so it all become a comment. Once it became comment, you can run your program. Perfect. Yeah, suppose I'm writing a basic data step for you guys. Suppose I am creating a profile data set. Profile means suppose it contain the name and the age of a person. Let's make it simple. And the profile data set, I'm gonna write with my input statement. So input statement, I said I'll be taking the name, which is a character field. So I have to write like dollar symbol after that. Then I'll go for the age. Only two things at a time. I'll go with the card statement and let me write couple of values. Example, let's take Alice, age is 24. Let's take um, Tom, age she is 14. Let's take another example of Henry with age 32 and run. That's it. So this is a basic data step which we have run it written before as well. Okay, let's just run this. So we got a result, the output data. This is what we are getting it before as well. Now we are more interested to go into the logs and we to see that okay, what are the things happening. Okay, in this you can see that you know that in the log whenever you are submitting a program, that program code will also come into your log window. Now if you see that card statements are coming, but the data is not coming what I have written it here. I have written here certain 3 lines after the cards and those are not coming here. Okay, so in order to get that, in order to in order to get this particular records, like how in the backend it is happening, I'm gonna write another keyword here, put. put means just to display. Okay, put underscore all underscore. Let me run this patch now and let me show you how log is different now. If you go to the log now, you can see that now your data is coming here in the log clearly with these variables what I was talking about. Okay, now you see this name is coming as an Alice. That is nothing but your first row of data. For that there is no error. It signifies underscore error underscore means there is no error as a zero value by default. If there will be any error, then it will become 1. Then underscore n underscore nothing but it points out the row number of that particular data. So this is the first row. Similarly, Tom as a second row, Henry in the third row. These values are nothing but the automatic variables which are getting generated in the SAS and getting assigned with the values. So it was a basic understanding about like how you can present it, and in the log itself your data values what you are processing here with the automatic variables. Now let's go little bit more theoretical aspect now, one by one what we have just discussed here, compilation phase and execution phase in little bit depth, how this is happening, how the this pdv vector is, it's about how it is happening, and all those things will go now in little detail about it further. Okay, before jumping to that, one quick thing I would like to tell you. Suppose you are writing here input statement, means you are declaring either data line or card statement in the program, and you are telling the but you are telling the precisely your SAS compiler that okay, we have a card statement or something below where you have to go and fetch the details provided and you have to assign the values as per the input statement you have written here, name and age. In case suppose I am writing another set, data data suppose class, I am writing instead of this, I am directly reading the SAS datasets. Directly reading the SAS datasets means I'm gonna write here the set statement. Okay, we'll go for this set and these things further in our programming in the tomorrow's classes, that how these things are, how we're going to write it and all. We'll go in detail there. Set statement, just try to understand that set is a keyword which we are using in order to read our input data set. Simple. So suppose I'm writing here SAS help dot class. I told you this thing, whenever you don't write anything before the dataset name, that is a work library. Whenever you are writing a permanent library name, you have to mention like this. So if you go to libraries and we go here and try to find out SAS help, you will get the class dataset here, which is provided by default by SAS to us under the class. You can go and you can find the details. There are some student details which are already present here, name, sex, age, height, weight, like that. These details are present, basic details. So if you read like this also, that is another way of reading your data sets. Okay, above one is also fine, in that you have to provide under the cards, that is a very basic step, but these things are just mostly for the theoretical aspect. Okay, majorly in your programmings you gonna read the data set by the below highlighted part, like this you gonna read. So what is the difference between these two in terms of data processing? The only major difference would be here, whenever you're writing the input statement, this input buffer will come. What I mentioned you, input buffer will come to picture. Source data, input buffer, pdv, and then your output dataset. But whenever you are writing directly from the SAS dataset, you are not declaring any cards, any input statement, nothing. So this input buffer will vanish. It will not be in the picture. Then it comes like source data, your pdv, and directly your output dataset. Is that clear? Any doubt in this? Okay. uh, okay. Sumesh, I didn't heard his voice. I thought he's there or not. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. I just thought, yeah, are you there or not? We'll go to the server. Let's keep it like this. Yeah. So this was a little bit programming aspect, how it is happening, how it slightly is differ. Let's go back to the theoretical aspect to understand how this backend things are happening, which is important for your knowledge for like your interview perspective as well. Okay, let's go in little bit depth now. Now, how, let's copy this compilation phase. Let's copy this topic below. Now, what is this compilation phase? Now, in this compilation phase, majorly now we are talking about only two items here: input buffer, PDB, how this entire processing is happening. Okay, and a little bit definition about them to understand well better about it. Okay, now uh, and later on in I'll show in the word, I'll draw some diagrams so that it will be more easier to understand how the data is happening. Let's just first focus on here. First thing is input input buffer. Okay, now what is this input buffer about? Okay, it is a logical area. This is a definitions. If somebody asks, you can provide the definition as well. In memory, into which SAS reads each record of raw data when SAS executes an input statement, which I just explained you already. Input statement. Note that this buffer will only created when the data step reads raw data, it reads the raw data, but when when the data step reads a SAS data set, which is a below example with the set statement. SAS reads the data directly into the PDB, which I just explained you already. Now, this input buffer area, simply it's like I already said you, like it's a piece of memory, like it's written in a definition. It's a logical area memory, simply gonna read the data, and it is going to write further in the PDB, and it contains an input pointer also, which plays a very vital role here. Now, example, this input buffer, how it looks. Okay, suppose let me create a small table. Okay, the input buffer is like this only, like a simple cells. You can just assume it's a piece of like cells, and these cells will have a little bit like some memory number. Example, this is 1, this would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, suppose. Okay, now what data I was writing it here one by one. What data I was writing? Alice space then 24. Alice is under the name and age will be under 24. So these values are written one by one inside this, okay, which I'm gonna explain in further phase, which is execution phase. Right now it's a compilation phase ongoing. So compilation phase is nothing but it just creates these things. What? Input buffer, pdv, and your descriptor portion. So just assume that input buffer would be like this only, a piece of cells with a straight line having certain numbers like that. Okay. Then, okay, let's go back to our further. What is PDV now? This was input buffer definition. Now, what is program data vector? Okay. Now, what does PDV stands for? Okay. PDV is another logical area in memory where SAS builds the data set. Okay, it will build the data set, your final data set. It will build one observation at a time. Means it will read one observation and it will write, it will read and write like that, one at a time. When program executes, when program executes, SAS reads data values from the input buffer or creates them by SAS language statement. This second line, it should be creates. This is nothing but the second scenario with the set statement I was talking about. Okay, statements, these are done, this or this. Okay, the data values are assigned to the appropriate variables in the program data vector. PDV, I'll just write. From here, SAS writes the values to a SAS dataset as a single observation at a time. Okay, what does this mean? I have already explained the majorly things. PDV is like logical area. It will build the SAS dataset, means it will create a final output dataset, one observation at a time. Okay, when program executes, when you're running the program, it executes. PDV what will do? PDV will going to read the data from the input buffer and it will, or input buffer, or directly by the SAS language with the set statement which I just explained you. And the data values we are going to read and assign at the same time to the respective values. Example, PDV going to read the data first as an Alice and it will assign under the name. Then it will read 24 and it will assign under the age. So PDV does these things at a time. We'll go step by step in a this picturization wise how it happens actually, one at a time. Okay, now let's create initialization of PDB. Okay, how this PDB initialization happens. Okay, now initialization mainly, like I already explained the theoretical part. Now the very first thing, PDB, once it is created, okay, we are going to assign a certain value to the variables. Okay, these variables are nothing but coming from the input statement. Now in our case, in our input statement, how many variable it contain? Two, name and age. These are two variables names it contains right now. So now okay, I'll take this point to word so that I can draw the diagram as well here. Initialization of a PDB, how it happens. Now I'll create in the PDB, let me create insert, since we have two variables, name and age. So there are two cells I'm creating. Apart from that, I told you in PDB there are two more automatic variable happens, underscore n underscore and the error. So PDB this pictorial representation would be like this for my PDB program, which I have shown you already. Okay. Now what is this about? This is my name variable. The first signifies my name. The second signifies age. Third one is underscore n underscore error underscore. Okay. Now see that. The very first thing is, whenever this is created, the very first step is all the variables which you are written in the input statement, that will be missing value. Okay, missing value means it will be blank. Now the character, as you are already aware, character missing value means there will be nothing, it is completely blank, null. Whereas numeric missing value means you have to write period, that is, in another words, we just say dot. So that signifies that this is a missing value of a character field, whereas name is having a character name. This, I'll repeat myself. This signifies that this is a missing value for numeric field, whereas name is a character field with the blank. Now, the very first thing is it going to read your first row, which was Alice with a 24 age. So underscore n underscore, as I mentioned you, this is a row number. Underscore error underscore would be your 0. Initially, it's like that. It's assigned automatic variables with a 1 and the 0 value. Now, this is the very first iteration. Very first iteration means very first step. It's reading now. Now, if you go further one by one, then how this will happening? Like when this is the very first thing, we have a missing values. Then how it going to add the data inside these values, and it will going to show you. That usually mainly happens in the execution phase. This is the very first beginning of the PDB, how it get initialized with the missing values and 1 and 0. So when you go to execution phase, we'll go ahead. There I'm going to feed the data one by one under this PDB. Is that clear so far? Any doubt in this? Okay. We'll move ahead further. Okay, this I'll show you later. We'll go to another thing that is called, what was the third? Third was descriptor portion, which we have already covered. So I'll just write a quick about it. Descriptor portion of a data set. It means your proc content. If you remember, initially we have already gone through that. Okay. So it contain, I'll just write in a short. It contains information about the data set, such as the number of observations, size of data set, list of variables, etc. I think you can go for a descriptor part, that proc contents, which we have covered before. So that is majorly it is about, you know, the theory, like how we are writing proc contents data equal to data set name. If you just write, let's write an example so that you can see that what is the descriptor portion I was talking about. Example, I'll write proc contents data equal to what I have created just right now, profile data set, and I'm going to run. Simple two piece of line, and when you run, you'll get all the information. This we have covered previously also. All the information it will contain, the variable and the detailing about. Okay, so this was all about the, so far it's about the compilation phase. Okay, remember one thing always. Okay, whenever a compilation phase and everything is happening, the variables values we are not assigning. I have explained you thoroughly, but during the compilation phase, no data is going to like assigned or read or something. Okay, this was just, you can say, they have prepared to get the data now. So far is the preparation was ongoing. I'll just write here this point. During the compilation, during the compilation phase, no data will be read or write to the data set, to the, you can say, output data set, to be more precise, to the output data set. That's all about the compilation phase so far. We'll proceed ahead now to the second most important, is the execution phase. Now what is this execution phase, how it happens? Let's see the data, how the pdv is getting assigned for these things. Execution phase. Yeah, now in the execution phase, as I already explained, that majorly this is in this what happens, the let's just write, okay, during the execution phase, the data is read into the input buffer, and subsequently the pdv and the output dataset, one observation at a time. I'm writing this theory as well for you guys so that you can just go through these things, because these all the definition also I'm providing you simultaneously, so you can answer these things, what is this about. Now let's just, let me show you how the data is getting feeded into this. Let's copy first line, first row. Okay, let's copy it here. This is the data, right? Now I'm gonna do one by one. I'm going to do this. This is a pdv I have created. You remember before that I was showing you the input buffer. Okay, input buffer is nothing but it was like a table. So suppose how many characters are there? 3 2 5 6 7 8. Maximum you can keep it 10. Draw table. Sorry, insert a table with a column as 10. Suppose row I'm taking as a 1. Okay, 10. Now how the values will be written, I have already showed that in the input buffer the memory allocation, suppose it start from 1 to 10, like that, a simple number. In the backend actually computers have a more complex numbers. Okay, 1 to 10 is what basic numbers what we are taking. It's more hexagonal decimal numbers comes, which is very tedious. Only computers understand those things. Now how data will be read, the very first thing is a will come here one by one at a time. Alice. Then there is a space. After the space, then it comes 2 and then 4. Single character goes to single cell. One by one, this is how the input buffer will get feeded. One by one. Okay. I'll just write here example of input buffer. Okay. I'm going to upload the Word file also, so that in the down the line, if you wish to, you can just go through that. Okay. Now we'll go for the input buffer. The first thing is we'll go for the input pointer. Okay. What is this input pointer? Input pointer will nothing but it will start from the very first cell. As I mentioned, it will start from here. Input pointer. If it allows me to draw, okay, I am just pointing out for you guys. This is the input pointer will start from the first and will go ahead one by one at a time. Now once it's going to read one by one, and as I already told you, we are following here the space, right? Space in the sense as a delimiter what we are using. It is nothing but in the table. Where is the table? Above, you can see that table. As soon as this Alice will complete this entire word, this entire pdv, let me copy this pdv below for you guys, and how the data would be. Okay, it will come like Alice here. So far pdv we have a missing value so far, right? Now one by one it will go one by one at a time. So missing value of name will go with the Alice. Name, age which was missing, it goes with the second number as 24, and this will remain as it is as a 1. Error will remain as a 0 because so far we did not encountered any error. If error will come, like I've said, this underscore error underscore will become 1 and it will flag. Okay, once the one row, particular one current record is completed, suppose, okay, then after the complete record is done, then this current record will go to the SAS data set. Okay, just remember that when your entire complete one line of data is read, subsequently pdv will go and write it into your SAS final output data set. Then again it will go to the second line or third line and so on. For that, again this entire pdv, let me write here pdv for first iteration means first step, first time it is executing. Then it comes pdv before second iteration. pdv before second iteration, what happens? Suppose this entire data was read and it is sent to the output. Again it will reset, the pdv. Again my name will erase, again it will reset to initial stage. Age will be like this. Let me push it a bit, little bit to make sure it's under the correct cell. And now underscore n underscore was 1 before at the starting of this entire data read. Now it comes to second row, this becomes 2 now, and this will remain as 0. if suppose any error happens and it will become 1, suppose, so what happens, that again that error underscore error, if it become 1, it will again go to 0 if your issue is resolved. Whatever error of syntax error, anything happened which you have done, if you have corrected that, that error underscore error will again reset to 0. Like similarly I showed you pdv instead of that, right, after first iteration, and pdv before the first iteration. This is a slight catchy thing which you should know it. Is this clear so far? Any doubt in this? Is this clear? Somesh, can you just confirm me? Is this clear, right? So you guys understood the flow of it, okay? One record the another, second and third, it will keep on repeating. This is all theory about. Okay, we'll write couple of definition which is very much important. Before that, I will upload this particular sheet as well. This is the white paper which is already published long back, which will give you an entire picture about how this entire process which we already discussed it will. Like it starts with a compilation phase, then it create the input buffer and everything, then it will begin with the data statement. Sometimes it will go with the set also when we have a data sets reading. Then it will check. This is nothing but it's a conditional thing. It will check the condition is yes or condition is no. This is like question mark, like whether the condition is true or false. If it is true, it will come down. Yes means true, no means false, means it will close the data step and your program is completed. If it is yes, it means it will go and still keep on reading and executing further, and executes right return to back to the same. Like we have 3 records in our program, so this entire arrow, you can see this particular one, it get repeated 3 times, and the fourth time it would be like it is done, your records are completed, nothing to read, it will close and it will come out of this loop. So I'll send out this thing. It will contain other information also which will help you out to understand the entire compilation phase. I will upload this sheet as well for you guys. It will have a 10 pages. You can go through one by one. Okay. Any doubt with this? Do come and let me know. Fine. I think this is all about, and 2 small definitions I would like you to write in your this one. What is n underscore n and what is error underscore error if somebody asks you. Last 2 definitions. So let's just write 2 lines about that. Automatic variables. So first thing is underscore and underscore. This this variable is used to keep track of the number of times a data step has been iterated. How many times it get iterated? Okay. By default, it is set to 1. That's it. If somebody asks you, you can just answer this. And what is underscore error underscore? The value is 0 by default and gives information about any creation any One sec. The value is 0 by default and gives information about any errors occurred during the execution. Okay. Um, if this happens, it will set to 1. It will set to 1. I think that would be enough in order to give some answer. If any error occurs, it will set to 1 and reset to 0 once fixed. And reset to 0 once it is fixed. Yeah. So what does this mean? Simply, which I already explained, that it will set to 1 if any error occur, otherwise it will reset to 0 once it is fixed. So far, this is all for the day from my side. Any doubts so far? Okay, I'll just save my program